Episode number 5. Here we go. All right. Well, listeners, thanks for coming back. I think there's might be two listeners, maybe my wife and my mom, and that's it. All right. So the Walkthrough Podcast presented by Southern Oak Custom Homes, and today we have Trent Peterson of Core Contracting. And so, Trent, man, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Kevin Northcutt, boss man.
Good to be back.
Awesome. So this is our third location in 5 recording sessions. And I'm not an experienced veteran in podcast production, and every time it's a bit of a journey. So thanks for bearing with me. We've been here for like an hour, and I've just been...
Yeah, we're running 30 minutes late.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Better late than never.
That's not true. 3:30 was the record time. It's 3:34.
Oh, I thought you said it was 3 o'clock.
That's when I got here.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're good to go. I apologize.
That's awesome. So, yeah, no, we're at a brand new office, Kevin. Congratulations. This is pretty sweet.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts? I mean, we got an empty wall here. What are we filling it with? I mean, we've been joking about a big picture of Mount Rushmore, big bison head.
Something.
What do you think?
I don't know. I want to have like an old flag or an old something vintage. I like that type of stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I thought about if y'all. Well, I'll go ahead and say it. You know the movie Toy?
Toy?
Yeah, I like the old. Y'all remember that? What is the actor's name? Where the little boy they told the dad, the rich dad. It's like in the 80s.
I'm remembering, but I can't.
The tall black guy, and he's like, "Hey, I want him to go," and he hires him to go play with him for like 2 days or whatever. Well, in the guy's office, he's got a painting of his wife. You have to go back and watch it now. It's hilarious. And Haley's like, "No,
that's not happening."
No, I was joking around, like, because it's like she's like laying there, like,
you're giving me vibes from Titanic.
Well, it's kind of it's not that graphic, but it's kind of like. So Haley, no. But I was like, that'd be kind of cool. But she didn't think it's that. It's only me that thought it's cool. But
what do you think, Trent? What goes up there?
I like the idea of an old vintage Texas flag, maybe.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yes, I didn't think about it. I was thinking.
Proud to be a Texan.
I was thinking the America flag.
America.
The
Texas Forever.
Yes,
You guys ever
Texas
watch
is good.
Friday Night Lights? I always think Tim Riggins. Texas Forever.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
That's
Friday
great.
Night Lights?
I saw the movie, but that's different though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Than the show.
Yeah. Now, Coach Taylor, he's a good dude. He's a good dude. Yeah.
But what is good?
Oh, man. So I apologize, watchers, listeners. My life's a joke, and my job is just to get made fun of. That's Kevin hired me so he could just rip on me. Yeah.
Makes the day go by.
Yeah.
Better.
Yes.
You got any hands like that?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Every hand is
there's
there.
always one.
That's awesome. All right, so Trent, you came. You're our dirt guy, right? So you build our house pads, you build roads, you have a lot of background, but tell us about you. Who are you?
I've lived here now for, I think we're going on 18 years. No, 16 years. Maybe a little bit more than that. Moved from the North Dallas area, Prosper. Started up my company here.
You left Prosper before Dion got there, I bet.
Actually, he was the first big house that was built there.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. So I grew up in Denton, near Prosper, and once upon a time that was the Sticks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is no longer the Sticks.
There was, I think the population sign said 1,200 when I went to school there. And I think there are 35,000, maybe 40,000 now.
Yeah, in a very small area.
Yeah. I mean, I was driving to school. I think I was 14 and driving to school on dirt roads. And it was probably 5 to 8 miles to school. It was a very small area, remote.
Yeah. You set that story up like, man, I was barefoot and on horseback when I went to school there.
I was driving a dune buggy. Really.
No, that's pretty legit.
It was pretty cool.
To go to school on a dune buggy.
My dad hooked.
Did you have your shotgun mounted up?
Once I got my pickup, there was definitely always a shotgun in it. And then, right about my senior years when that started being a no-no as well. So
that's when they hey, you can't bring it no more?
That's right. Yeah.
Disappointing.
It was dove season. You know, you go and hunt dove, and then go to school, and then you get out of school and you go back and you hunt dove.
Yes.
So I grew up in total suburbia. So like stories like that, it's hard for me to relate and understand. And then now I'm raising my kids in Stephenville, and it's like their reality's quite different than mine was.
That's a good spot for them to be.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So you're from North Dallas. What's your story? Well, first off, how did you guys meet?
Well, he's kind of like the myth and the legend. You hear about Kevin Northcutt. I hadn't ever seen him or met him. Was doing a large project at some townhomes here in Stephenville, and heard that he was the framer. And so I made it a point to try to meet him and see what this guy was all about.
That's a good way to describe him. The myth, the legend. Like nobody ever actually sees him, but he's doing something everywhere.
Yeah, I got the several crew leaders are on vacation this week, and Jason was like, "Oh, so you got a lead today?" I'm like, "Thanks." Like he's like, "You actually showed up." I was like, "What are you talking about? Actually, give me a hard time." I was like, I felt a little, I was like, "Dadgummit."
Hey man, let's put the tool belt. Let's put the nail back on.
Do I
Step your game up.
Yes, but anyway, I interrupted.
And then I think we really probably started building our relationship. I had a home that we were building for a friend of ours, and I needed a framer, and I wanted to make sure and hire the right one for my first build. And I think we just we built on it since then. And
Yeah.
Are all of your friendships from framing?
The bulk of them, or their family. One of the two. It's like it's either work related or we either blood or it's work. It's kind of I don't know if that's cool, good, or sad. I don't know.
But I think when you live and breathe work,
It ends up being
and family, it's kind of those two things together.
Yes.
That's where you build those relationships.
But yeah,
It's true.
but
Well, that's awesome.
but no, it's good. That's what the reason, and then it like kind of fostered like I don't remember what job you were on. I don't remember if it may have been the job over on 108. Oh, was it Oak Creek? You put the road in for that subdivision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
And I think that's where I was like, and that's where I remember me telling you about his roads. I was like, dude, we gotta. This is before we started this place. I told Haley, I said, anything we do with dirt,
It's got to be
roads, it's got to be. Because I've been on roads where they just like, so it just looks like they just went out and just started dumping gravel.
Mm-hmm.
And no, anyway, I'm getting ahead of getting into the nitty gritties later.
Oh,
So
we'll get there because you showed me some pictures too, and I was taken aback by your presentation of like, oh yeah, this will sell a dirt job. Like I'm ready to buy.
well, and it's like he's giving me drone shots and like before and afters, and it's like it's very satisfying as a customer. Like Morgan Mill was a big one.
Right. That was a great one. Yeah, I was hoping
When we did a
talk about that.
spec over in Morgan Mill, that was the presentation of that. But we're getting
No, it's awesome. So how'd you get to Stephenville?
So really, it has to do with the family. We had my dad had a tire business in Prosper. I think around the time I was 16, he decided he was done with that. It was earth moving tires, so he was working on dirt equipment and around dirt all the time, and kept watching. He was tired, wanted to change from what he was doing and what he had done most of his life, and decided to go buy a skid steer and a dump truck. It's actually what he did, and let go of all of his employees, shut down that company, and went and started working on his own. My mom ended up working with us. I did. My sister did as well. And then...
So you're in high school.
Yeah.
Shotgun, dove season, get some doves, then hop on a skid steer?
Yeah, pretty much. Summers are work. Summers weren't... there was some fun times in summer, but I did a lot of work during that time too. And my granddad moved out here first. We came out here and hunted. That was kind of what drew us to this area. Going down towards Marble Falls, coming through Stephenville, all this area has been known for good deer hunting. So we were coming down here, and then my granddad moved down here. And then I think shortly after that, not sure if my folks moved here next or if my sister ended up going to Tarleton. She went to school to get a horticulture and landscape management degree. And somewhere in that time frame, my folks moved down here, and that they all had relocated. And I stayed in the Dallas area for another probably 12 years, 10 years or so. Maybe not quite that long, but I stayed out there, continued doing dirt work on that side. They were doing dirt work down here. And then we weren't sure if we ever wanted to leave the city, really.
Were you operating your own business, or you're like a division of your dad's business?
Division of my father's, yeah.
That's awesome. So, I mean, 10 years after high school, you're late 20s. Mm-hmm. You've had pretty good existence there.
For sure. And there was some bouncing back and forth. I mean, working with family is not always the easiest thing. I'm sure Kevin can attest to that. So there were some ins and outs and some other different jobs in construction. I worked for a pool construction company. I did some structural reinforcement, steel structural reinforcement and custom homes, big homes in the Dallas area. And then we did spiral staircases as well. I've kind of touched and gone on a lot of different construction jobs, thinking I was going to go do something different other than what I do now and what I was led to do.
What your calling was to move dirt.
Yeah, exactly. And I ended up, I mean, this is kind of a little different part of the story, but I got sideswiped twice in 1 month, totaled 2 cars in the Dallas area. And I called my wife while I was stuck in the car on the second one and said, we're leaving. We're moving to Stephenville. And that's how I ended up here.
That is...
I was done with the traffic.
Some
now
people
we have
might
the same
say
traffic.
Providence.
Right.
Did you when you came down here? Is that when you went and worked for the road company?
No, that was a little bit. That was that ended up happening around 2008.
Oh, okay.
So when 2008 came around and that slowdown happened, we were in the throes of some other projects we can talk about here in a little bit, but a lot of our work was based on subdivision work and amenity centers, stuff like that. And 2008 shut down a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it really did. You know, these high-end subdivisions ended up sitting empty,
for many years.
Yes.
And it was like just abandoned. That was just abandoned. Like houses half done.
Just grass grown up.
Yeah.
Jungle
that was crazy. I mean, I remember like cruising around like, this is real.
It was apocalyptic.
Yeah, well, I mean, like,
level.
I mean, it was like it was creepy. You just walking around. It was like you could film a horror movie. Yeah. Like just boarded up, half built, born. It was weird. It was definitely. But then
I've told you this before, that the downturn of 2008 is basically how I married my wife. She graduated with a degree in architecture in 2008.
Okay, we were talking
and
about that,
nobody's hiring an architect, nobody's building houses, So she said of her 100 students, or give or take, from Texas Tech in her class, only 2 are architects today.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is.
That's poor timing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, I feel like there's still a need for that right now. It's kind of growing again with where we're at.
Yes. No, it's definitely, yes.
There's a spot that could be filled there.
Yes.
Draftsmen, architects, technical.
Everybody, any draftsman you talk to, it's like, or full-blown architects, they're overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's, how do I, and nobody wants to wait a year for drawings.
Right.
Everybody's impatient,
For sure.
So there's definitely a need, but
90 days in some cases is too long.
Yes. Yeah. They want to go.
Right.
But
no, we've talked about that. Like the fastest way to close a deal, if you got some people interested in a home, is like get them drawings, get them a number, and while there's energy, go for it. That's right.
And then that way you can keep it moving.
So what you're now here. You've been here in Stephenville, or you've been in the area for how long?
Well, that's what I was saying. I think it was around 16 years or so.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more.
And how long have you been running core contracting?
Since 2013.
Nice. All right. And what you've told us in the past, like it's evolved over the years, but what does core contracting look like?
Really, I would say I've kind of downsized a little bit recently, and there's some reasons for that we can talk about. But got a couple guys that help me. I'm out on the job now more than I was in the past. I'm running equipment again. I like and prefer to do more of private work. I'm a little more selective on the GCs I work with. I had a conversation with Kevin about that probably about a year and a half ago, maybe.
Why do you like private work more than working for builders?
I don't mind working for builders. It's just select builders. And when I say private, I guess maybe I should say
Landowners.
more towards like residential compared to commercial. I've just stepped back out of the commercial realm a little bit. And that's mostly, it's a whole nother level of stress and getting money. All of those different things are just, it's a whole nother world.
And satisfaction. It's very much just a transaction in the commercial end. And it's really cool when you are doing residential, your owners are appreciative of what you're doing every day.
Being able to make their dream come a reality.
Yeah. I mean, it's very satisfying work.
Absolutely.
Then you just expressed that, I mean, perfectly. You were pumped to see the drone shots before and after
on
the Mustang, project in Morgan Mill. It's pretty cool. Like
it is.
The satisfaction is way more tangible.
Mm-hmm. When you're it's very like if you talk to anybody about commercial, which I mean I've done a lot of it. Probably I would like to get back into some of it on the framing end, but it's very much like if you do it, it's just hey because I'm wanting to inspire because I got some bigger dreams I want to accomplish and it takes money to do it.
Right.
It's not because hey it's the satisfaction of the work really.
Right.
It's just like hey I need some more dough.
You can drive down the road and point and say, I did that.
Yes.
But that's the only satisfaction.
Yes. And it's cool, but it's very satisfying when a homeowner or landowner, it's like, man, when they're just like, when you walk away and you're just like, yeah, this was on your end, was thick brush and now it's looking good.
Right.
But anyway.
Sure.
So you talked about like operating machines. Like what does that look like? What is being a dirt guy? I mean, is that a derogatory term? Like,
no,
he's my dirt man. Yeah.
No, not really. But I think there, it kind of shorthands the whole thing. There's a little bit of a difference in being an equipment operator and being an owner of that company and what it takes. So you can have a really good operator. I think I'm pretty decent.
And can you just for anybody listening that might not know, what is an operator? What is that?
It's someone that can actually run a piece of equipment and grade, see slopes, know when things are level or not level.
Is that done by like just touch or is things with computers now? Like is your equipment?
It is advancing. All of mine is going to be manual.
Just like feel it, know it,
correct.
See it.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, yeah.
And that's hard sometimes. I mean, you got, the grade of just your natural terrain, and then you're trying to get a level pad off of that. And that's hard to see.
And a pad's a little different than, say, if we were to come out here and we wanted to make a waterway that goes down to a pond, and we want a trail that goes down beside it, all that. It's a little more than just sticking stakes out there. And certain operators are capable of doing that. Certain people that operate equipment, it's just not in their wheelhouse. Yeah. You can put them on a pad, they can do it all day long, but if you ask them to get artistic with it, it just may not work out like you planned.
I heard a rumor that you're talking about being an artist that you used to be on stage every now and then.
I was a little bit,
a little musician. So like, how much is just being an artist? Like, were you raised in the arts, artistic, like with artistic pursuits and artistic minded?
My wife would probably say yes. Yeah. And she's an artist as well. That was more where I was led. That's what I thought I was going to do. Uh-huh. That was my big dream. I was going to make music and be a rich rock star or something. I don't know. But
now you got big dump trucks and you're making art in the dirt.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I get to make cool things.
I do think it is true because we've all seen you walk up on a site or you walk up on people's and you can be like, man, just something. Same thing as we've discussed about you and be like, yeah, it looks good, but something's off. And then you walk up on a good like operator and good guy that's really seen through all the way to the end. Like you do a lot of times, you'll be telling me this, that, and I'm looking at you with a third eye, and you're like, just trust me. Right. And when it's done, it's like, man, you really see through a good what I see you do all the time is from the very beginning, you can see all the way to the end, and that's what I think that's just an operator, not necessarily an operator, but you're able to see beyond just running a piece of equipment. You're able to see the end goal of the land.
I agree.
But Anyway,
No, I like the word artist, and I hear it, and I always have very positive connotations. Somebody who cares, somebody who's thoughtful, somebody who can see a blank canvas, new what's the term, raw land, and like, now we're gonna turn it and we're gonna shape it, and like a sculptor.
Morgan Mill was not to go beat the dead horse on that, but like that project was like I bought that land, never stepped foot on it. And Haley was like, that'd be all right. So we were walking it, and Haley, and Trent are running up, walking through it. And man, I'm panicking because there's junk everywhere. It's rough. I'm panicking. I'm literally panicking. I don't know if I ever told you or not.
No, you didn't.
And then I was panicking.
I was sitting here thinking, man, this is a gym. This is gym in the rough right here.
And then he was like, and I was like, you sure? Oh yeah, it's gonna be good. You got this, that. And I tell you, that is probably one of the most favorite sites that I've been a part of was that one. But it's just a prime example of just being able to like see just in my mind, it was gnarly and it was not going to end well, and ended up one of my favorites. What'd you say?
I said, let's go do it again.
Yes, no, I want to, but that's what I mean. That's what I like. That's what I really like about when I'm working with you is just the being able to see all the way to the end and I'm usually fired up. And then
awesome.
Anyway.
Well, thank you.
That's cool. So you're not doing so much commercial anymore. You're trying to do more residential, working with fewer people. Life's a little simpler. What does your crews look like?
Right now, I got Colton Maples helps me on one side. We have another guy that's interning right now. He's going to school at Tarleton, learning the craft. I'm helping mentor Colton and teach him how to be able to actually take this a step further, where what he aspires to do, because he loves doing dirt work. And then I work with a couple other guys that worked with me in the past that aspired for the same things, and I tried to help push them in that direction, and they continue to help me to today.
That's awesome. So I have met Colton and Will. Mm-hmm. Those guys are awesome. Yeah. So Will, the intern, I said, man, how'd you meet up with Trent? He's like, well, I sent 20 emails and he's the only guy that replied. And I was like, then you're talking about Colton is the operator, and you're mentoring him into business. Like, how do you turn this into actual profits, right? Because so much of making it work is your office work, relations, getting the jobs, executing,
and how to get through a job from beginning to end. That's a big deal in dirt. There are so many variables you don't know. And I was mentioning it to Amber earlier. You come up, I'm looking at basically raw ground, like you said. It's grass over. There's trees everywhere. I don't have a way to dig down 2 foot underneath that to see what's going on. And once you get there, you may encounter stumps under the ground, rocks that you didn't know were there. There's multiple different things you can come. Groundwater is another thing that happens from time to time. And you have to figure out a way to overcome that, because that job still has to finish.
Yeah. Groundwater, like springs coming?
Well, yeah, you do have springs.
Or just low spots. What do you mean by groundwater?
Some areas are prone to just hold water down in the ground. So you get down to either a water table from say if we were here working along the creek and we had something that was down, say 20 foot. You get down there, you actually get into that water table from the water that actually is dispersing out the sides and not making it down the river.
That's great. So what you listed a few variables. You're dealing with Colton. He's a young guy, he's hungry, and he's doing good work. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that have maybe surprised you of what he's not seeing? Like some of the things that you forgot that you learned?
Can we come back to that question? I will think on that, but yeah. I would have to kind of think on that a little bit
more.
No,
that's cool. You deal with much turnover?
I would say I did and didn't. I had some good runs with some guys, but typically in this business, if you have a CDL and know how to run equipment and you've done it long enough, everybody ends up wanting to go try it on their own. Mm-hmm. And so most of my best people have either gone on to be successful at it, and that's what I was mentioning earlier. They still help me. or they've gone on and unfortunately failed miserably and never came back, which I would have probably, those guys would have even taken back, but I don't, they just, I think there was a little pride in that, sure. Go and move on and do something different.
Is that the same thing that you deal with framing, of just like you build somebody up, they can frame, and they now have all of your contacts because they've been working for you and with people, like how that's common in all the trades, right? Like electricians, plumbers, everybody, like you deal with the same thing of people leaving and starting their own.
I think everybody has to some extent. But you just like, I do my best to work hard to build a good culture to where you get you train up that they'll want to stick around. But but there again, some people just don't want to stick around and they want to go on, but you do your best to build a culture where they want to stay, but
right.
Not always. And that's okay. But you want to, I try not to, I do my best not to like hold back. I'm sure you're the same way.
Yeah. I want to see someone succeed if they're wanting to do it.
And then could I figure you can either create enemies or you can build allies. And I try to like, whereas somebody did inspire to leave, it's like, hey, we're not going to be ready. We're not out there killing each other. There's mutual respect. And they're like, hey, you didn't hold back. And that's what, because if you hold back while they're working for you,
they feel it.
Well, they feel it, but also too, you're just hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Because they're not performing at the level that you need them to be performing at. So
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. If so, you want them to be the best they can be, because whether they stick with you for 5 years, 10 years, or 3 years, or they make a good run, they decide to make a run with you, I'll go a long time. But if you sat there and held back, well, then next thing you know, you're 10 years deep, and you're like, man, I should have poured in them and really got all I could. And then because you're hurting both of you. That's the viewpoint that I take. It may change over time, I guess, but right now that's the way I've been running it. And that's what, like my brother, when I worked for him for 10 years, they never held back on me, but.
So what does a good culture look like for dirt? Like with framing, it's easy. Everybody's talking. It's, with dirt work,
I don't know if it's easy, but
I'm just saying there's more connectivity is what I meant. Yeah. And with you got an operator that might be 8 hours just in a cage, in the machine, isolated.
Depending on the job and what you're doing, sometimes you do have CBs. You're able to talk back and forth. There's a lot of joking that goes on in there. And then there's a lot of sign language. There's a lot of different sign. Well, yeah, that's some of the sign language. There's other things too, a lot of things go on there. But yeah, there's a lot of.
If we need to turn this into a rated R podcast, just let me know. We'll push a different button on YouTube. Yeah.
But you have your time out. You can't sit there. I don't push for the guys. Some companies do to be in that machine, and that machine needs to be rolling and tracking for 10 hours a day, all day long. I've done that, been there. It's a lot. It's a lot on your body and in your mind, and to be able to get out for a minute, eat outside, sit underneath the shade tree, and visit. There's a lot of bonding that happens there with a crew. That's cool. As far as dirt work.
And especially if you're allowed to get out of the machine and do different things, you're going to get a different perspective of the site. You're going to see different things. If you're
Correct.
Always in it, you're able to get out, figure out, because multiple times when you're framing at breaks or lunch, you're out there and then you start talking about the site. Usually ends up progressing into work, and you end up coming with good ideas,
right?
Bad, and just thinking of good things and helping it progress and seeing the pitfalls or what to look for.
Right. And it does look different once you get out of the machine. You do have to get out every once in a while, especially when we're not talking about GPS, any automation, and it's all about your eye and feel. So you're getting out looking. So
are you like wanting to get equipment that's like that?
It's what's going to happen. It's inevitable that's where everything's moving to. I think that the cost for the equipment hasn't made it where makes sense to be competitive right now in the type of work I'm doing. It's better fit for commercial environment.
Okay.
So you get on a job, it's 100,000 square foot of paving that you're setting up with a pad and entryways, all that. And you have this 3D model that you put into your machine. then you can take somebody that is a less experienced operator, put them in it, and for the most part, if they can operate decent, they can do the same thing that a very experienced operator can do. So it is taken away from that trade as far as what it takes to have that experience. What used to be the highest paying job was on a dirt crew was a motor grader operator. On most of the jobs you see on the highways now, they still do get paid well, but it's not at the same level as it used to be.
Because they can, it's been simplified.
You're flipping switches in there. You just need to know how to turn it left and right, which way the dirt needs to move.
Okay.
And be able to hold the steering wheel. We call them steering wheel holders. But no disrespect to that.
We call it
no major disrespect for that. It's just a little bit different than.
Well, it's like a bad superintendent. You call him he's a phone jockey. Yeah, it's just like it's like so we don't.
I don't know.
I've never told you that term. I don't know. Well, now you know. Don't be a phone jockey.
Yeah,
it's like
start saying PJ.
Yeah, then you know. But it's like say so it's But anyway.
So what does max efficiency look like? What does efficiency look like? Running smooth. You're talking about kind of having laid back culture at your company.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be things that come up.
How many projects a month do y'all run?
That varies depending on the size of the project. I mean, I may have, but we're low on crew. So I mean, as far as how much we can do and how much equipment we have. So sometimes 2 weeks takes me a job. Sometimes I only do 2 jobs in a month, and sometimes we'll do 15 in a month or 20. We may be going job to job to job to job. Just depends. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've been out there in Granbury now for going on a week and a half, and we'll be hopefully wrapping that up towards the end of this week.
Trent's referencing he's working on Granbury 1 and Granbury 2 for us, and so those were some pretty gnarly lots that you guys had some puzzles to deal with.
For the size of the lots, there was a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
Little bitty lots, but there are a lot of. Well, I remember meeting you out there when you were like, Kevin, what have you done?
Yeah. It's like it's like the Morgan Mill. He bought the lot sight unseen. Yeah, he's like,
well, I was like, well, the problem is though, is that you've pressed me so much now. I'm just like, you can make anything look good.
That work.
Yeah, we're just buying trash.
Listen, just push back on him. He's got it. You know?
We have another friend that's kind of like that. Buys it and then comes out and says, "Hey, you can fix that, right? You can make that work."
Yes.
Oh, by the way, I bought another lot, and I need you to go look at it and tell me what that's going to be. Okay.
We've talked about the Morgan Mill project. What other jobs, when you think back, like the last 16 years, that was a cool job. That was a cool project.
I was thinking about that earlier. Probably one of the coolest jobs that sticks in my mind regularly. That picture did you see the picture of the waterfall?
Yes.
Okay, so that was a waterfall I built out at the harbor at Possum Kingdom. Uh-huh. That project started for us. We Todd Blackwell. I forget what company he works for now, but it's a huge company. They do 10 million square foot facilities, stuff like that. At that point, he was their construction superintendent, and we'd worked with him for years on amenity centers, stuff like that. Called us out because they had what they had done is actually blasted the rock to build these ponds and then used that rock to build all the roads through that subdivision.
What subdivision was that?
The harbor.
Oh, okay. At Possum Kingdom?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of over by, I'm trying to think of what, I think they call that other part the ranch. It's in Grayford area.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Anyhow, they had really bad. They overfracked, or when they blasted too deep, and they cracked the rock in the bottom. So they were putting water in these things, and the water just goes straight out. And we're talking 3-inch, 4-inch fissures in the bottom of this deal. So, anyways, the conversation started. Okay, what do we do with this? How are we going to fix it? They were pretty good sized areas. They had some other ponds that they wanted that were actually in areas with pretty good dirt, clay. So we came up, we're going to build these 2 ponds here, and we're going to do a water feature in the middle, and we're going to take this dirt, and we're going to line these other big rocky holes in the ground and see if that works. Let's see if the clay lining would work. And we're talking months of moving dirt and digging these ponds, watering and compacting and building it up. basically building a liner out of that dirt.
So yeah, I mean, you're touching that I'm learning right now. To build a pond or to build a tank, a lot of times you can use clay and just pack the clay in because the clay won't absorb the water and it'll seal the bottom.
Yeah, it's expansive soil, clay is. So it depending on how much your PI is on that, your plasticity index, determines how much that clay expands and contracts, which is something that has to do with house slabs and problems with crackage and all that there's a lot of in Texas because we do have a lot of clay in our soil. But you can, obviously, if you can dig a pond that has clay in it, that's going to hold really well. Shell is another material that works really good for that. But the clay, yes, we took that, lined it with about a foot. It didn't work on that project.
Oh man! So what happened?
But it wasn't for loss because the backup plan for that was to bring in a liner company to actually line this pond.
Okay, like plastic,
like EPDM. Don't ask me right now that it's like a polyurethane. It's like it's a plastic, but it's bonded and it actually has fiber in it. So stitching, and then they weld that together in pieces all the way through. We dig a trench all the way around the outside, a keyway trench. The liner lays in it, and we backfill that with dirt, and you start filling it up with water. So it's not a whole lot different than a above ground pool.
That's
to
cool.
kind of put that in perspective. I mean, that's basically.
So this waterfall, from the original fissures, like does the rock that you how big of an expanse was this that you built?
I think the bigger one of the two was probably 4 acres maybe. And the other one was probably, I think, 2 acres maybe.
Okay.
And 2 ponds that we dug to get the dirt, which that has to happen. You have to have a soft bed for that liner to sit on. You can't just go in and throw it on top of a rock.
Sure.
Oh, because it'll cut or it'll damage it.
Right. So that dirt work had to be done, but those 2 ponds probably ended up being about an acre apiece of the dirt that it took to line the bottom part of those big ponds. So I may be off on that 4 acres. I can't remember exactly. I could get you a measurement. I can get you a measurement off Google Earth.
Precise.
I can do that for you.
But the water, like the picture you reference, is of the spillway
between the 2 ponds that we use, which would be called a borrow pit, because we are borrowing dirt from one area, taking it to another. We do that to build house pads and do all kinds of, that's how dirt is. You have a place you borrow from and a place you place it. So they were basically the borrow pit. Had one that was elevated and one that was low below that, built a dam in between them, and then built a water feature. Those both also got lined. And then we had a pump that recirculated through there.
Yes.
That's awesome. That was a lot of challenges.
Yeah, it was a cool job. And it was awesome. I mean, the satisfaction after it was done, it was beautiful. So.
Do you like short jobs or like do you get bored?
Yes.
If we're on a framing site, if my guys are there for more than a month, they're like, okay, like it's time to move on.
We always think we want to go do that big job. We're excited to move a bunch of dirt. But after moving 10,000 yards, you're like, okay, well, we only got 90,000 more to go.
I'm ready to go push a tree over.
So round and round and round and round and round. Yeah.
What can you tell us any just disasters? Any fun like, oh crap, this happened?
I could tell you quite a few probably, but I got one in mind. When I was younger and had just moved down here, maybe here for a year, I got a job out. My dad was still doing dirt work at that point too. I got a job on my own. Said, hey, Dad, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do this clearing. It was probably 35, 40 acres of clearing. I thought it was a great job. I had a 953C track loader out there, which is about a 45,000 pound machine. I think it's about what it runs. Decent size dozer track loader. Went out there, started that job. I learned a lot about types of trees on that job. There were a lot of cedar elms, which I think I was talking to you about cedar elms the other day, wasn't I?
Yeah, because we just pulled a cedar elm off of Granbury 1.
Right. They grow and root down really deep down in the ground, and they are searching for water. I did not know that that's what was happening. But anyway, so I'm going to clear all of these cedar elms off of this place. I clear. Well, as I'm going, this is sandy, really sandy material. I didn't think twice about it. Somebody had told me, one of the old timers out there, and my dad, he's like, that sand's going to be really rough on that undercarriage on that track loader. It's like, I don't think it's that bad. It'll be fine. So I run. Well, then we ran into a time, I can't remember what year this was, but I think it rained for almost 3 months straight. It just rained and rained and rained and rained. And I had nothing to do. I couldn't go work anywhere because it was raining everywhere I had work. But I had a bunch of brush piles on that job that I could go burn. And so I talked to my customer. He's like, yeah, go ahead. I'll pay you to go burn that stuff. So I go out and I burn, light up it wasn't going to go anywhere. Everything was cleared and it was soaking wet. I light probably 8 piles at once. They all start burning down, and I decided to go up with the track loader, and I'm going to push them together and get all that done. So I track out there, tink, 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 turn to go into the pile, and it falls in a hole and just splashes water out. There's no literal hole there. What it was 6 foot of sand with clay underneath that, and it was full of water almost all the way to the top from flooding for 3 months.
Oh.
So I had to go and talk to my dad. Dad, I stuck the track loader. He said, I told you. Anyhow, he said, well, go up the street and talk to so-and-so. He's got a big dozer. Maybe he'll come. So I go up there. I talk to him. And he goes, well, where are you at again? I said, I'm off this county road. He goes, I'm not going to do that. I was like, what's wrong? He goes, that area is really bad. I wouldn't even do a clearing job over there. He said, I'm definitely not bringing my dozer out there because I'm not going to get it stuck too. So I spent 2 weeks with railroad ties and shovels, and I dug and lifted it up and dug and lifted it up and dug and lifted it up until I finally got it up high enough that I thought it would work. And I brought, how this worked, I don't know, but I brought 2 more skid steers out there, and I put cables to each one of them and had them up on burn piles that had burnt down at this point. We're 2 weeks later. They're done. And tracked them and had 3 people help me, and we got it pulled out. But it was, yeah.
Man.
And then it ended up costing me $20,000 to replace my undercarriage when I walked off that job.
Oh yeah. Did you break even? Did you break even on the job, or did you take a hit?
Oh, yeah. That's a wash.
Was your dad like, I told you so?
Oh, he was real proud.
Like proud that he told you so, or just like embarrassed, like, what have you done?
He just said, well, that's a good learning lesson for you.
I hate that it's true, though. Those are good lessons to learn.
It was. I learned a lot on that job.
Yeah, because it sucks when you're sitting out there for 2 weeks or whatever time to go. Like, because you're not able to charge your customer your hours. You're just out there just working,
toiling
for nothing
in mud, sandy mud.
So you touched on 3 months of pure rain. How do most dirt men, you got a business, you got employees, like how do most people survive during rainy seasons?
A lot of dirt guys go on vacation.
Yeah.
But I don't know on the guys that are working hourly. It's a tough deal.
Right.
I tried my best to. There's always mechanic work. Always. I mean, there's always something breaking. You got moving parts, but you run out of that. You keep the guys busy with that as long as you can. And then you're like, well, hey, we need to clean up all this stuff. Well, we're going to do that. Well, eventually that stuff runs out, but you do your best to try to come up with as many things as you can to keep everybody busy as long as you can. In a 3-month stretch, that's really hard.
Sure. So, I mean, like thinking about being a business owner for, a dirt company, like it is imperative that in the feast times to save.
Absolutely. And get the hours in for the hourly guys, all that. I mean, work as much as you can. Yeah.
And it's not even someday. That's what sucks about dirt is it's like on framing, we miss a day of no big deal. Right. And there's multiple times I'm like, hey, Trent, we going to get started? And you're like, well, we had a rain down. I'm like, that's one day. And you're like, yeah, but I couldn't get in there for a week. Yeah. And that's what it's like. That's right. You forget. And then your equipment's stuck.
Yeah, or my equipment's back on another project way at the very back of it. And normally if I know rain's coming in, it's going to be heavy. I try to get it up to where I can get it out. But you still do get caught
Like the other day, you were coming back to my house, and you were like, "Hey," and I looked at you. I must have tilted my head. And you're like, "Yeah, I should have brought it up," but you did. It was like so. I was laughing. I was like, I don't even know if I was thinking it or not, but you brought it up. I was laughing.
Yeah,
I did think it was funny, but
it does happen from time to time.
So where did you? Like, how did your dad, did your dad teach you all the different materials, how to compact it, how much water, all the intricate details of all the dirt? How did he learn it? Was it just did it, trial and error, or how did y'all become the experts in this industry?
I think he was just kind of naturally talented for being able to figure things out really quick. He's always been that way. Comes up with tools, and builds something to fix something when it needs to be fixed. So it was a lot of trial and error in there. And I learned a lot from him on how to move dirt, how to fill it when you're sitting in the machine, what you're looking for, what your slopes are. But I think he taught most of that himself, and I was learning at the same time as I was growing up. And then, I got to give credit. When that '08 deal happened, I went to work with Jay Mills on a road construction crew. I had a lot of experience on reading plans at that point and operating. And I ended up moving up the ladder pretty quick with them. But I learned a ton on that through testing and compaction testing, everything that we had to do to pass what we needed to do for highways, which we did some of that before with Dad too. I mean, we did basement sub-compactions and just a ton of different projects, trial by fire. But I did learn a lot with Mills as well, just because that's the way it had to be.
It had to be in different things. So if a guy was coming up, operate hey, I want to. Do you recommend? Is it just I'm framing? I mean, sure, there's some schools you could go to, but in reality, you just got to go do it. Is the dirt kind of the same way?
Yeah,
you just kind of realistically, you just got to go find somebody that'll take you under the wing and just go start doing.
For sure, because every material works different too.
Okay.
And going back to, I don't remember the question you were asking me about Colton earlier, but that was one thing that even just in the time we've been together, we've encountered quite a few different dirts, and I was able to show him some tricks on, when you have this, you can add moisture this way and it'll make it work in this way. Or if you get too much moisture in this type of material, then you're going to lose a day because you have to open it back up, which would be basically kind of like plowing it. Yeah. Let it dry back to a certain point, and then you can get your compaction. But yeah, there's a lot of feel to it. You kind of got to get your hands in.
Yeah.
You got to get your hands dirty.
I do know that a lot of concrete guys they complain about your pads.
Oh, well, I've heard that.
Because they're it's packed.
Gosh, those pads might as well be the foundation itself.
No, he does. I mean, that's what I love. That's the nitty-gritty details of what he does. That's what I really like how you pat. I mean, others may do it, but I just never seen it at how well you did it, and that's what I really liked when I started getting around you. It wasn't just we're here just to slop some dirt on the ground or some gravel. You really pay attention to the details of
he's an artist.
I'm a road selling son of a gun for core.
I love it. That's probably one of my favorite ones to do.
I love anybody that talks about a road. I'm like, oh, Core's roads, his roads. They probably get tired of me talking about it. But it's just like at my house, 18 months, heavy equipment running up and down it. Not a single. Not a single pothole. Not a just absolute good stuff. And that's what I like about how you go about it.
And there's a price point on that. I mean, that's, there's a lot of times I go out and look at a road and then they say, well, this guy's half the cost. I said, well, there's only so many places you can cut corners, And I mean, there's a certain level that you're going to pay. I prefer not to build a road that you can't do that on and my name be on it. I mean, yeah, sure. I can come in, throw base down like you were saying. And say, well, your vehicles will pack that in over time. And we're done.
Well, what was that? There was a job over there in Carlton where I talked to you about it, and the owners didn't want. They were like, I don't remember if you were at 50,000 or whatever, and they ended up finding a dirt guy for 25, and I was like, my word, I was like, this ain't going to end well. And then later on, I was like, hey, Trent, there's a road and we can get to the house, but I swear it goes from like 10 foot, narrows down to 6 feet at times. And then it's like, and it's very thin.
Up and down. It's not smooth. And yeah, it might be smooth, but then it's like, as you're driving, it's wallering out. And then like when it's just there was a massive difference in what I saw. And that's what really sold me of like, hey, there's no other road guy out there in my mind. It was like, so that's what, Thanks.
But there is a big difference.
I've never seen Kevin swooning so hard.
I mean,
I'm
blushing.
Are you blushing?
Yeah, I love the roads. Like, but it is different. And that's what price, but they're going to be repairing that road.
Yeah,
right out the gate.
There's a lifetime that you kind of want to be able to expect out of the road. All of that changes depending on the traffic of it.
Mm-hmm.
But for, say, your driveway, I mean, it should last, 18 months with 18-wheelers going across it.
Uh-huh.
That probably put a little bit of life on it, as far as its life expectancy. But I would imagine a well-built road with a subgrade, which would be what's going underneath the base, getting watered and compact and crowned properly so that you do have drainage. Drainage is a big issue on roads.
Uh-huh.
But built properly, 6 inches compacted, I think you can get about 10 years before you're going to have to really do any addition of material.
Okay.
But there is.
This is we're talking about it like a Caliche road.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're
that's
talking.
right.
Your driveway is what, quarter mile?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a maintenance to that. That when you start seeing depression in it from where you drive in the same spot every time, which I try to recommend people don't do.
Mm-hmm.
Use your whole road, and that keeps that shape to it. But most people get stuck in the same pattern. They drive in the same place every day. They take the corner the same way. Those things over time will cause a road to degrade much quicker. So you do need to hire somebody to come back and spend a day. Great, depending on the size of the road. Great.
Is it like not so I don't go too deep and hard on the road, but on the like a house pad, on the house pad, when do you recommend, like as a customer, to say, hey, you need to get an engineer on the types of soil? Like so far we haven't gotten one. You've been like, hey, we're able to make this work. We're good to go. I'm confident in what we can do. Is there times where you're like, hey, man, you're going to need to get somebody to like.
I'm not confident to build this pad.
Well, I need some direction of like, or you're like, hey, I've seen so much, I'm good.
No, I think I feel pretty confident in my skills of being able to build that pad through any circumstance. Groundwater is definitely one, and I think I even pointed that out on it's Granbury too. I'm not sure which one tracks which, but there was actually some groundwater that I could see coming out the side, but it was just seasonal. It was raining right there.
Uh-huh.
But I could see that it wasn't coming underneath where it was. It was just coming out underneath the rocks and going by. But if I can actually see that we're in a kind of swampy area, if I'm walking across it and it's what we call pumping, it feels like you're walking on jello, we probably need to kind of we can either do some exploratory stuff, dig down there, see what's going on, which depending on the size of the project, really. I mean, I may say, hey, it won't cost you that much for me to start checking and seeing what we need to do. Maybe we get a couple of proctors and get some densities on, or see what this material is going to.
For the most part, what they're going to, hey, this is the type, they're going to want you to bring in dig out, bring in select fill. You kind of know what they're going to be telling us.
Yes. And it also depends on the customer.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, if
am I going to get sued?
Yes. If I feel like I'm walking into what could be a bad situation, I'm probably going to push for that.
Just say, hey, let's get that. And then that way, everybody feels good.
Everybody.
Insurance. We make sure we're good.
What groundwater, anything else makes you nervous when you approach a job and you're like, this is a concern?
I mean, there's a bunch. People get a little excited about having a new property, and they'll come in and just start chainsawing everything down where their house is going to go, where their road's going to go. It helps if they leave it up. 3 foot is a great help. When they cut them down to the ground, it is not a very fun job.
Right, because that extra leverage to get the roots out and such.
Well, correct. Plus, I don't know they're there until I hit them full blast and bang my head into the front of my machine.
Sure. So that's a good. Do you like most of the projects we're on? Hey, I buy it, and sometimes before I buy it, you're out there. Mm-hmm. But I buy it, I don't do nothing. You come out, and then usually you kind of like, hey, this is where I think we need it. You start giving me some ideas. Hey, these 3 spots are going to be great when it comes to either water issues or different things you'll point out. Do you recommend people before you just start cutting trees down, get you a good dirt guy, come out there and look at it, and then before you start just tearing stuff down that you don't need to be cutting down?
And get some consultation on where's this water coming to? Is this really going to work for my house pad? Am I building this in the right? I want this view, but is this really the best place to have it?
And then they went and cut down a tree that didn't need to be cut down, or clearing that didn't need to clear that they want that instead of getting some consultation on it.
Absolutely.
This is a good segue. Before this, you wanted to talk about house location. Talking about land management. You're also a builder, and we'll get there in just a minute. But if somebody has a piece of land, what are some considerations they should consider for where to put the home on their land?
So utilities are always going to be a big cost if you're buying raw land. Where is the electricity at, and how far are you going to have to take it to get to where you want your place? And even if you haven't bought that property yet, where I want to build my place, am I going to be able to get an easement from my neighbor if I have to get power from there and I need a guy wire that's going to go onto their property? That turns into a major issue sometimes for people that bought a place and they were dead set and that's what they were going to do. And it's been discouraging for some people that either had to spend an extra 10 to 20 grand to run power from a completely different direction that they didn't think about. So utilities would be one as far as your location goes. Ingress and egress, how you get in and out of that property. Are you crossing over waterways, creeks, things to think about, how you're going to get there and what that cost is going to be to get there, which goes back to the calling somebody and say, hey, come check it out.
Make sure.
And then, you're always going to have a view from an elevated platform. Typically, everybody wants that, but doesn't realize when I'm doing that. Every once in a while we get lucky and we have a knob, a kind of a semi-flat spot. Most of the times those are big fill jobs. And it's not a thought, they're like, oh, this view's beautiful. And then I come out and they're like, it's not that bad. And I go out and shoot it and it's 10-foot fall from one side to the other.
That's yes.
Are we laughing at your house now, Kevin?
Well, no, that's every time I was like, Trent's like, it's 5. I'm like, Trent, come on, you're exaggerating. And then we'll bust it out, the transit. And sure enough, it's within a couple inches of what he said.
And it doesn't lie. So unless it's off, but it's not going to be off that much. No. And I get them calibrated regularly. But, and then the other one on the flip side of that is I get calls. I got this, I don't need much site prep. I'm building on flat ground. It's flat. Well, that's another, that can be very problematic. Because if I'm on a really flat piece of property, where does the water go when it rains?
It sits there.
Right? So you think, okay, well, we're not going to have to do any site prep here because it's flat and we're just going to sit forms on here and we're going to go. Well, the water is going to sit in that area. So to get past that, you actually have to build that pad up and that house elevation up so that you got enough room to push the water to where you don't care that water is going to sit. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So what's my yard area? What's my acceptable area that I want to keep maintained and don't have water standing? Because it's going to stand somewhere.
Because you don't want it standing just right around your foundation.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Have you guys heard of the flooding that happened in Amarillo this spring?
Oh, it's crazy. Canyon.
Yeah, I just went 2 weekends ago, and I mean the playa lakes are those the aquifer recharge spot. There's thousands. You drive down I-27 or 287, and just every 100 yards there's a new playa. There's a new standing water. It's 4 foot deep sometimes. You see it on the telephone pole. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah. And before you get to Canyon, that is really flat land. And it's a good example of it. You have to create things to hold water where you want it, in a situation like that. Or like I said, just say, I want my yard to be 100 foot out around my house. Okay. Well, if it's flat, then I know I need to come up this elevation to get the proper slope and get it away from the house.
What's the proper slope? Like what, if 100 feet, whatever, what slope do you look for?
I mean, most engineered things that you look at, any specs on that, I believe it's typically 2% or more, which is basically it's out of 100%. So, I mean, a 2% slope it's hard. 10% is a lot easier for me to roll on without a calculator right now.
But concrete's what, like a quarter inch every foot? Is that
You mean
right?
like on your porches?
Yeah.
Yeah, which would be, I guess that's probably 1% maybe.
Okay. So maybe a half inch a foot.
Yeah, no, 2% would be increase in your slope. So, you're gonna make.
You don't have. I was just looking.
Here,
for
let me pull out my calculator.
No.
I believe over 100 foot, and on a 2% slope, you're dropping 2 foot. So you need to be 2 foot higher.
Gotcha.
I just had she's making me think about it there for a minute. Pretty easy math. 2 foot rise.
Yeah. It's just I had a long time ago on framing. I worked for a dirt guy. He did dirt work for Walmarts and things like that. Back he was retired, but he had built a subdivision and he built a house and there. He's selling lots for he just on his retirement. And he was always like, I don't know why he always trying to convince me that we should go to the percents instead of feet because he goes, it's so much easier.
Oh, the metric system.
Yeah, and I'm like, he's always telling me how much easier it is to figure. And I always looked at him. He's like, you don't care to know, do you? Or you don't care? I was like, nope, I know. So,
well, there's a joke in the dirt world. If you pull out a tape measure to start getting elevations and stuff, he's probably pretty inexperienced.
you're probably not.
Because we're running in tenths. We're not running in inches.
Yeah, you're probably not our guy.
Yeah.
So that's a telltale sign. If your dirt guy shows up with a tape measure,
Unless it has tenths on it, you can buy one with tenths. They're pretty rare, but you can.
but if it has just
Inches.
yes, now
I was just having a discussion with some friends. Like, why do tape measures have? Why are these the tenths? Like,
And if I tell you we need to raise that 5 tenths, and you ask me how many inches that is, we're going to have a little quick class about it.
that'd be a half inch.
Which is 6 inches, by the way.
So we're kind of getting near the end. You're doing dirt work, and now you're also getting into home building.
Yes.
And so you want to tell us about Six String? Is that the what's the name?
Six String Development. Yeah.
Good. See, back to being an artist. I mean, look. We can laugh at it, but there it is.
So my wife, like I said, is an artist. She's actually president and owner of that company. She's always been really good at putting spaces together, marketing type things. She was the owner of Zen Spa in Stephenville for a number of years, and got sick for a little while and was not able to do that. Anyways, ended up getting well and was wanting to do something. And interior design is what she ended up floating towards, and decided to go and you'll have to save that for another interview. She can tell you more about all that. But we did that about the same time, started up Six String Development, and really originally started that thinking we're just going to go build specs and buy us a piece of property. That way I can do what I like to do too. It's all long-term goal with Six String and Core, that we can go out and take a piece of property from nothing and finish it to the very end. That's your fences, roads, everything, utilities, all of it. Anyhow, she
and really take her vision and just from start to the end,
correct,
and just let that way you're not dictating. Right. Take it all away. It's fun.
But we floated into just kind of circumstance, and we ended up getting customs, and that's pretty much all we've done the whole time since we did that. We're on our 4th now. So
that's awesome. And you were telling me, like her work as an interior designer, being able to serve your customers and your homeowners with mood boards, going through and truly showing them what the space will look like.
Correct.
And so, man, that'll help a homeowner with decision making instead of having, being just paralyzed by the abyss.
Right.
Hey, look, these are coherent few options that will work together. Mm-hmm. Oh, you don't like these? Let me present something else. That's a really cool service you guys offer.
No, and she's really, really good at it. I mean, there's certain things I'm good at, certain things she's a lot better, and I have no problem being basically the worker guy for her. You know, I'm like I said earlier, I'm the sticks and bricks.
Nice.
I just like that.
I love that name. Yeah.
And she's the one that makes it look pretty nice.
Are you trying to scale up, or you like that really hands on? Is that what y'all like? What's your vision? What's your goals?
We've talked about that. With the time we're at in our lives, we got a 6-year-old son, which was just very big surprise for us and a blessing. We didn't think we could have kids, but we started that journey in our 40s. So we're trying to keep it kind of simple, build something for him, but we want to keep the quality in what we're doing too and be hands-on. So I think we're looking...
Quality starts at the core is what I've heard.
That is the slogan for core. I think if we could get in the 4 would be probably as big as we ever... A 4-year would be... Yeah. That'd probably be it. Yeah.
Really specialized. You're really taking a lot of time. Spend a lot of time. I like that. It's good.
That's awesome. So, if you could build a home for yourself, what kind of home would you want to be in?
Oh man, that's going to be an Amber question. But I can tell you what I personally our ideas mesh on what we like. I like I like wood and metal. I like more of a hard surfaces, and I like that combination. She says it's kind of like a modern industrial meets farm house.
That's what you like, or that's what she likes?
That's me.
Oh, okay.
And then she's kind of somewhere in between too. She likes having some metal in the house, accents. But she also is very distinct on her style. I mean, like for instance, in here would be really. I think she would really like this.
So she
I'll interject here. For those that think this is Kevin's office, wrong. This is Haley's office. She is the one that actually makes everything run. Kevin's wife Haley is.
I was joking with Andreas that this is true high command. Right?
Yeah, this is
But
you get to borrow it though.
Yeah, we borrowed it for today.
We're paying rent, but it's all right.
Yes.
Yeah.
We, me and Andreas and Tommy were kind of piled up in my office at the shop, but so that's good.
Well,
it's all right.
What if there's a distinctive feature that runs throughout all of your different homes, even though they're custom? Like, is there you lean on any one feature or one skill set that you bring?
I mean, obviously, for me personally, I'm always building the foundation, handling everything that's on the ground.
Aesthetically, is there a feature of like, oh man, our homes, a 6-string home is going to have this?
That again, I think you need to bring Amber in and let her. She really makes those decisions and tells me this is what I want to see.
Excellent.
And you try to execute it.
She is, and that's right. Yeah, I try to keep everything going, moving, and execute it properly.
Do you have
quality control?
Do you have a favorite or least favorite stage of a build, like build stage?
Yeah, the finish out.
Yeah,
that's the least favorite or the favorite.
That's my least favorite.
Yeah.
Now, when it's finished, that's probably my favorite.
Yeah. But the front end, you really like that. That's what you do. I mean,
that's right.
We talk about that last 5% of a house. It's tough.
It is
finishing it off well.
Amber's excellent at that. I mean, obviously, I'm still there pushing through that and making sure that everybody's where they need to be at the time they need to be there. But Amber's going to be the one coming through and saying, that's not really meeting the standards that we want,
That's what
this really needs to be elevated. And
trying to push that last, a lot of people can get it to the 95, 98%. It's that like you're on the 1 yard line. Like we want to push it.
Finishing is the hardest part, even in dirt work or anything. I've said that for years. I mean, at concrete, everything. That last part of it is the hardest part of construction.
We started a slab today, and it was square. No. I got a better example. I'm not going to name no names, but we were on a slab, and this is no joke. We were detailing a slab. I'm the framer. So it's not Southern Oak Custom Homes, but it's like
A detail in a slab means like popping the string lines, and before the sticks go in the air, you have to draw it on the concrete.
yes, there was the whole slab. The form batter boards were true level, no joke. The whole slab dipped, bellied an inch and 3/4. The whole thing, inch and 3/4. I was glad I was not that GC. I was just the framer. So we were in there fixing it. I mean, there's a solution. We figured it out. Got it. But
That's tough though.
but like what you're saying is like a prime example. The forms were set good. It was square. I'm sure it had the right steel in it. But the last bit, it didn't go.
That's right.
And so it's like that last little bit is where I really hope that Andreas, and you're trying to do the same thing, just trying to help push things through to the end to get it. I mean, but anyway.
You got closing thoughts? Like, looking forward to the next year, 5, 10 years. You got goals?
I'm looking forward to y'all growing and keeping me busy on that end. We need some more of those Morgan Mill projects. I really love that. That's awesome. But no, I mean, I think like I said, I downsized. I'm just trying to kind of roll steady and do the best job I can at what we do now.
Yeah, and I can attest, working with you with our two Granbury projects. It's been a pleasure, man. I've really appreciated, the way you've handled me, the kindness, and just the professionalism has been off the charts. So.
I appreciate that. You never know, and he knows it. It's kind of hard once you've done it. You go big, and like I slowed down, but I may do something big again. I don't know.
We'll talk him into doing something. Yeah. We'll drag him back out in the deep water.
It doesn't take a whole lot.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining the show. A bunch of clowns we are, trying with our microphones and.
I like it. I appreciate you having me.
No, it's great. So
thanks for coming on and enjoying the conversation.
Let's do it again.
All right. Have a good one, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna give you some.